Turn up, turn up. Utility!
Utility. You can't get no utility. And we're going to try to change that today. This is John Ostick from Malvern Prep and Rolling Stones Economics. You know Rolling Stones, resource and scarcity. Josh Silvestri in a second is going to go over the micro question from 2004, number 3. And when Josh goes through it, you will get some utility. That is satisfaction. Josh Silvestri, Malvern Prep.
Assume that gasoline is sold in a competitive market in which demand is relatively inelastic and supply is relatively elastic. A. Draw a correctly labeled graph of the gasoline market. On your graph, show the equilibrium price and quantity of gasoline, labeled PE and QE.
Alright, so I already started the graph here. I'm going to label it gasoline. You have your price axis and your quantity axis. And it tells you that the demand is relatively inelastic. So demand would normally be like this. Since it's relatively inelastic, it's going to be almost vertical. And then it tells you that supply is relatively elastic. So the supply curve is going to be almost flat. And then it asks you to label your price and quantity axis as PE and QE. So here is where your equilibrium is. Come over here. Here's the price. If you just go down, this will give you your quantity QE.
B. Suppose the government imposes a $2 per unit tax on the producers of gasoline. On your graph from Part A, show each of the following after the tax is imposed. 1. The price paid by buyers, labeled PB. 2. The after-tax price received by sellers, labeled PS. 3. The quantity, labeled QT.
Right, so it tells you that there's a $2 per unit tax. So first, your supply curve is going to go up because of the tax.
It's going to shift up. Is that a decrease or increase in supply when it shifts left?
It's a decrease in supply, and it's because with the tax, the price of production went up. So this would be your supply 2 curve. And then the price, the new price, here will be your new equilibrium. And over here will be your new price, labeled PB. And then the after-tax price received by the sellers, labeled PS. So with your new price, it's going to come down here. This is the new price that the sellers will be receiving.
Very good.
Just below the old one, labeled PS. And then the quantity, if you just continue this down, will be QT.
Using the labeling on your graph, explain how to calculate the total tax revenue collected by the government.
Alright, well the total tax revenue by the government will be this whole area here, from where the new price is to down for the price that the suppliers will be receiving. So it'll be this whole shaded area. I think the best way to calculate this is just take the quantity. So the new quantity is QT. So you're going to want to take QT, and then you're going to times it by 2, by $2. And you times it by the $2 because the tax was $2. So that represents from the price that the suppliers receive to the price that the consumers pay, times the quantity, and that will just be your total revenue from the tax
To the government.
that the government will be receiving.
Awesome.
Will the tax burden fall entirely on buyers, entirely on sellers, more on buyers and less on sellers, more on the sellers and less on buyers, or equally on buyers and sellers? Explain.
So the tax burden will lay mostly on the buyers and only a little bit on the sellers, because if you look in here, this area that are double shade in, this is all from here, this new equilibrium and up, this is all where the consumer, this is the consumer part, because this is where their price was, and with the tax, this is what they have to pay now. And then all in here, this littler box will all be from the sellers, because this was the price they were receiving, and this is the price that they receive after the tax. So as you see, the consumer box is bigger, so the tax would mostly be on the buyers, and the smaller one goes to the sellers, so they only have some of the burden. Thank you.